It was supposed to be the perfect beach vacation. My friends and I had been planning it for months, a relaxing escape from our hectic lives. The house was small, cozy, and nestled right on the edge of a quiet beach. We were excited to spend our days swimming, sunbathing, and exploring the beautiful coastal surroundings. The ocean stretched out before us, its waves lapping gently at the shore, the air thick with salt and the scent of sunscreen. The first few days were everything we had hoped for. We swam in the clear blue water, sipped cold drinks under colorful umbrellas, and laughed about old memories. But on the fourth day, something shifted. We noticed him. At first, it was just a passing thought, something we brushed aside. A swimmer, far out in the water, moving in a slow, almost mechanical way. He wasn't close to the shore, yet he wasn't swimming away either. Just out there, gliding through the water, with no real intention of coming in. At first, we didn't think much of it. Maybe he was just someone out for a long swim. But then, the pattern began. Every time we looked out at the water, he was there, always in the same spot, always just out of reach. He never seemed to tire, never came closer to the shore, never left. And as the day wore on, a strange unease began to settle over me. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching us. "Has anyone seen that guy?" I asked my friends, trying to keep my voice casual, though my unease was growing. "Who?" Kate replied, not looking up from her book. "That swimmer," I said, pointing towards the horizon. "He's been out there all day." I watched as my friends glanced up, but none of them seemed particularly concerned. "Oh, probably just someone enjoying a solo swim," said Tom, my best friend. "Some people just like to be out there by themselves." But I wasn't convinced. There was something about the way he moved, too fluid, too perfect, as if he were part of the water itself. His strokes were long and effortless, and I noticed he never seemed to change direction. He stayed in that same spot, barely moving. As the day faded and the sun dipped lower, I realized he hadn't come any closer to shore. It was getting dark, and we were still sitting on the beach, watching the sun set. The ocean reflected the fading light, and for a moment, it seemed peaceful again. But when I turned back to the water, I saw something I hadn't noticed before. The swimmer had changed position. He was now facing us, still far out, but staring directly at the group of us on the beach. His figure was now more visible against the darkening sky, and I could see his head just above the surface of the water, his eyes locked on us. "Do you guys see that?" I asked again, now feeling a chill run through me. Tom laughed nervously. "It's just a guy swimming, chill out. Probably wants to get a better view of the sunset." But I wasn't so sure. Something about his stillness felt wrong. He wasn't moving, just floating in place, his eyes unblinking and fixed on us. As the evening wore on, we made a fire on the beach, trying to shake off the discomfort I felt. The warmth of the flames was comforting, and we laughed and joked. But my eyes kept drifting back to the water. Every time I glanced out, I saw him, still there. Closer now, far too close for comfort, and yet still maintaining that eerie stillness. His face remained obscured in shadow, his movements just a little too deliberate. The others were too caught up in the fire to notice, but I couldn't stop watching. By the time the stars were out, he was no longer swimming. He was just floating, motionless. And then, as the firelight flickered, I saw him slip beneath the water, disappearing into the black depths. But that wasn't the worst part. What was worse was that, after he disappeared, there was no sound. The usual sounds of the waves, the gentle crashing on the shore, were gone. It was completely silent, as if the whole world had stopped. We sat there for a while, the tension thickening, before I finally spoke up. "I think we need to go inside. Now." Kate gave me a puzzled look, but she must have seen the panic in my eyes. "What's wrong?" "That swimmer," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "He's not normal." Tom stood up, looking out at the water. "It's probably just your imagination. He's gone now." But I wasn't so sure. A sick feeling settled in my stomach as I looked back at the ocean, the waves now ominously still. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see his face, pale, ghostly, and lifeless. I tossed and turned, the room too hot, the sheets tangled around me. Then, just as I was drifting off, I heard it. The sound of something in the water, soft splashes, too faint to be a person swimming. And then, a voice, a whisper, so faint I could barely hear it. "Come closer." My heart skipped a beat. I shot upright, gasping for air. The whisper had come from the water, from outside. My mind raced, my blood running cold as I stood, frozen in fear. I didn't dare look outside again. I pulled the covers up to my chin, trying to block out the thoughts running wild in my head. But no matter how hard I tried to ignore it, the feeling of being watched lingered, and the sound of the ocean, once comforting, now seemed foreign, ominous. The next morning, we packed up and left the beach house early, our vacation cut short by an unsettling presence we couldn't explain. When we reached the parking lot, I took one last look at the ocean, my heart still racing. There was no sign of the swimmer, no movement on the water's surface, just the endless blue stretching to the horizon. But I knew, deep down, that he was still there, watching, waiting. To this day, I can't look at the ocean without feeling a chill crawl up my spine. And I know, somehow, that the swimmer, whatever he truly was, never left that beach. He's still out there, waiting for the next group of unsuspecting souls to wander too close to the shore. It was a quiet, peaceful morning when I decided to take a walk along the beach. I had always loved the stillness of the early hours, when the sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft glow across the water, and the world felt like it belonged only to me. The beach was nearly empty, the soft sound of the waves crashing against the shore the only company I had as I walked, letting the cool ocean breeze wash over me. I wandered farther along the sand than I had intended, my feet leaving impressions in the soft, wet sand as I went. The stretch of beach was familiar to me. I'd visited this place countless times before. But today, something felt different. Something was off. It wasn't until I reached a secluded corner of the beach, one I rarely ventured to, that I saw them. Fresh footprints, large and deep, leading from the water's edge toward the rocky cliffs in the distance. They were too perfect to be a random traveler's marks. Too deliberate. I frowned, unsure why someone would walk so far into this remote part of the beach at this hour. They hadn't looked like they were made by a casual beachgoer. No, these prints seemed heavier, like someone, or something, had been walking with purpose. I hesitated, then curiosity pulled me forward. I began to follow the footprints, thinking perhaps someone was stranded or lost. But as I walked, I realized the prints led me deeper into an area of the beach I wasn't familiar with. It was a stretch of rocky shore, jagged and treacherous, where the waves were stronger and the current pulled viciously at anything that got too close. The path was narrowing, and the air grew thick with a strange tension, as if I was stepping into a space where I wasn't meant to be. I glanced over my shoulder and saw that no one else was around. The beach was still completely deserted. The sound of the ocean, once comforting, now felt distant, like it was closing in on me. I could feel my pulse quickening. There was something unsettling about the footprints. They had led me too far from the safety of the familiar shore, and yet I couldn't bring myself to stop following them. That's when I realized something that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. The footprints were still fresh. The sand around them was undisturbed, as though the person who made them had only just walked through. But they didn't lead back to the water. The prints just stopped. I turned, starting to make my way back to the main part of the beach. A sense of dread settled over me, urging me to move faster, to get away from whatever had made those prints. The air felt thick now, the sky darker despite the early morning light. I quickened my pace, my heart pounding, as if I had just come to realize the danger I had been walking straight into. Then a sound broke the silence, a faint scraping noise, as though something heavy was dragging across the sand. I froze, every muscle in my body locking up as my mind raced. I slowly turned, eyes scanning the sand behind me, and that's when I saw it. The footprints were moving, slowly, deliberately. They were shifting toward me. I stood frozen, my breath caught in my throat. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The prints, which had been firmly planted in the sand, now seemed to have a life of their own, growing closer and closer to me. The dragging sound continued, each scrape louder, more insistent. The cold breeze carried a strange scent of salt and something else, something metallic. My mind screamed at me to run, but I couldn't bring myself to move. My feet were rooted in place, locked in a state of panic. Slowly, the prints grew nearer, drawing closer to where I stood, and I felt a chill creep up my spine. Something was moving in the sand, shifting. Something I couldn't see but could feel coming toward me. I snapped out of my stupor and bolted, my legs pumping as I ran toward the safety of the open beach. The sound of dragging feet echoed behind me, growing louder, closer. I dared not look back, but I could feel the presence closing in on me. Something, or someone, just out of sight, following me. I stumbled over the uneven ground, my heart in my throat, until the beach opened up before me, the safety of the open space swallowing me up. I didn't stop running until I reached the main part of the shore, where the sand was wide and open. I turned back to look at the place where the footprints had led me, my chest heaving with exhaustion and fear. But there was nothing, no footprints, no strange dragging sound. The beach was empty, just as it had been before. I stood there for a long time, trying to steady my breath, unable to shake the feeling that something had been watching me, something I couldn't see. I hadn't imagined it. I knew what I had seen. I had followed those prints, and they had followed me right back. I haven't been back to that stretch of beach since that day. Every time I think about it, my heart races, and the sound of those dragging footsteps haunts my thoughts. And sometimes, in the quietest moments, I still feel the weight of unseen eyes on me, waiting, watching, following. It was supposed to be the perfect day. The sun was shining brightly in the cloudless sky, the sea was calm, and the beach was peaceful, almost deserted. My boyfriend, Jake, and I had been planning this snorkeling trip for weeks, eager to explore the crystal clear waters that stretched endlessly before us. The beach was quiet, the kind of serene spot where you could lose yourself in the gentle sounds of the ocean and the occasional rustle of the palm trees in the breeze. We had arrived early in the morning, avoiding the usual crowds of tourists that frequented the beach later in the day. The sand was soft and cool beneath our feet, and the salty air mixed with the scent of coconut sunscreen. We were eager to dive into the vibrant underwater world that we had heard so much about. We slipped into our snorkeling gear, the excitement of adventure bubbling inside me. The water was warm and inviting as we waded out, diving beneath the waves and into the vast ocean. The clarity of the water was incredible, and the marine life around us was just as beautiful as we had imagined. Schools of colorful fish darted past, bright blue tangs and neon yellow butterfly fish flitting through the coral like living rainbows. We marveled at the underwater gardens of coral, vibrant reds, pinks, and oranges, teeming with life. It was like swimming in an underwater paradise, a place so far removed from the everyday world above the surface. And for a moment, everything felt perfect. We were just two people, lost in the beauty of the ocean, surrounded by the wonders of nature. We dove deeper, moving with the current, occasionally rising to the surface for air before plunging down again. The deeper we went, the quieter it became. The sounds of the world above the water were muffled, replaced only by the rhythmic pulse of the ocean and the gentle bubbling of our breaths through the snorkel tubes. It was peaceful, tranquil. Jake motioned for me to follow him. He had spotted a cluster of bright coral beneath us, and I swam over, eager to take a closer look. But as I neared him, something felt off. It was subtle at first, a strange heaviness in the water, a shift in the current. I paused, looking around, and that's when I noticed it. At first, I thought I was imagining things, a slight tug at my ankle, like a current catching my leg and pulling me just a little too hard. But the sensation was persistent, pulling with a strength that made me stop and look down, trying to figure out where it was coming from. I glanced up to find Jake swimming ahead, unaware of what was happening to me. I looked down at my leg again and felt it, a strong, sharp tug. My heart skipped a beat. It wasn't a current. It wasn't a fish. Something was gripping me, something unseen, and it was pulling me deeper into the ocean. My breath quickened, my heart pounding in my chest. I kicked my legs, trying to break free, but the pull was getting stronger, more insistent. I twisted around, looking beneath me, and that's when I saw it. A shadow moving in the depths below, something huge and dark, just out of sight. I kicked harder, desperate to break free of whatever it was. But the grip tightened. My legs burned from the effort, and my lungs screamed for air. I looked up again, trying to call out to Jake, but the water filled my mouth, choking off my voice. I could see him in the distance, oblivious to my growing panic, swimming toward the coral, completely unaware that I was being pulled into the depths. Then the tug became a pull, like someone, or something, was gripping my leg with cold, unyielding fingers. The pressure was unrelenting, and I felt myself being dragged downward, away from the surface. My heart raced, and I tried to kick harder, but the more I struggled, the stronger the pull became, like a dark force beneath me, reaching up from the depths. The water around me grew colder, the temperature dropping dramatically as I was drawn deeper, and I felt the weight of the ocean pressing down on me. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening, but all I could think about was getting free, escaping the grasp of whatever was pulling me down. But it wasn't just the force of the water anymore. I could feel something more, something cold, slick, and enormous, brushing against my leg. I froze, terror seizing my body. It wasn't a fish or a creature I recognized. It was something far more sinister. I couldn't see it clearly, but I could feel its presence, its slow, deliberate movements as it closed in on me. My heart was hammering in my chest, my breath coming in frantic gasps as I struggled to break free. But it was no use. I could feel the creature's cold, slimy limbs wrapping around my leg, pulling me deeper into the dark abyss of the ocean. I kicked and kicked, but it was like swimming through molasses. The more I fought, the more trapped I felt, as if the very ocean itself was closing in on me. Then I saw it, a dark shape looming just below me. It was massive, its body long and sinuous, like an enormous serpent, but with limbs that twisted and writhed like something unnatural. Its eyes were cold, black voids, and I could feel its gaze fixed on me, a predatory stare that made my blood run cold. I was no longer swimming in the ocean. I was being pulled into a nightmare. A rush of panic flooded through me as the creature's grip tightened. I struggled, kicking with all my strength, but the more I fought, the deeper I was pulled. The surface seemed impossibly far away, and I could feel the crushing weight of the water pressing down on me. Suddenly, I saw Jake. He had noticed my distress and was swimming toward me with frantic urgency, his eyes wide with fear as he saw the panic on my face. But before he could reach me, the creature's grip tightened further, and I felt myself being drawn deeper still, away from him, away from the light of the surface. In that moment, I thought I was going to die. I was going to be swallowed by the dark, unseen depths of the ocean, consumed by something ancient and malevolent that had been waiting for its prey. But then, just as I thought I would lose consciousness, I felt Jake's hand grab mine, pulling me upward, toward the light. With every ounce of strength, he dragged me to the surface, the air feeling impossibly sweet as I broke through the waves, gasping for breath. I looked down into the water, my heart still racing, and I saw nothing. The shadow, the creature, whatever it was, had vanished, but I could feel its presence still, lingering just beneath the surface, waiting for the next victim. We swam as quickly as we could, my body trembling from the cold and fear. When we finally reached the shore, I collapsed onto the sand, gasping for air, my heart pounding in my chest. My skin was clammy, cold with dread, and I could still feel the phantom sensation of the creature's claws on my ankle. Jake didn't speak. He just held me, his voice shaking as he murmured, "It was just a current. Just a strong one. It's okay." But I knew better. I had felt it. I had felt the creature, the pull, the dark force that lurked beneath the water, waiting for me. We never spoke about what happened that day. Jake insisted it was just a freak current, something I had imagined, but I knew the truth. The creature was real, and it wasn't done with me yet. Now every time I stepped foot on the beach, I glanced nervously at the water, my heart racing. I know that whatever lives in the depths of the ocean is still out there, lurking beneath the surface, watching, waiting for the next swimmer to fall victim to its terrifying grip. And I wonder, how many others have disappeared beneath those waves, taken by the creature that nobody talks about? How many more will it claim before it's done? The ocean holds secrets that no one dares to understand, and I'm not sure I want to know more.